Tonight on the 31 Nights of Halloween Horror, they thought their friend's aunt's house was going to be a great place for a vacation. What they didn't realize was it was going to be a great place to have a meal. Nobuhiko Obiyashi's house.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the 31 Nights of Halloween Horror. Nightmare Baby Circus. Anyways, tonight, coming off of a last episode's 80s slasher goodness, happy birthday to me, episode 3 will be a review of a type of movie that is a staple, like 80s slasher horror movies are a staple of my channel. Well, these type of movies are also a staple of my 31 Nights of Halloween Horror. And that is batshit crazy, screwed up Asian horror films. And tonight I've got a doozy for you. So tonight's movie is the movie House! Not to be confused with the other movie called House that was made in America during the 1980s. That's a good one also. But this one is a Japanese film made in the 1970s. And what is it about? Well, it centers around a young lady named Gorgeous, whose father has brought home a new girlfriend, I guess a new fiancée, to be her mother because her mother died several years ago. And of course she is very upset with this turn of events and wants to get away. And she decides, you know what? She has this aunt, her mother's sister, and she hasn't seen her for a while. So she decides, hey, you know what? Maybe I can go visit my aunt. Writes her a letter, and it is strangely received, or not really strangely received, it's strangely responded to. And so she decides, all right, let's go. And she will bring a bunch of friends with her because it's summer vacation, and unfortunately their plans kind of fell through. And so with her friends in tow, they make a journey to the middle of nowhere where her aunt has a home. And now all these girls have names suited to their characters. Gorgeous, of course, is Gorgeous. There's a lady named Fantasy whose imagination runs wild. There's one named Kung Fu because she knows the Kung Fu. And of course there's another whose name is Prof because she's got glasses and she's smart. You know, stereotypes abound. And of course there's one named Melody who is a musical genius. And another one whose name is Sweets because I guess she's sweet. I don't really see her eating lots of sweets, but whatever, she's sweet. I don't know. And one named Mac, who is named Mac after the Big Mac, I guess, because she likes to eat lots and lots of food. And maybe she's a little shaped like a Big Mac. I don't know. Anyways, so they go off into the middle of nowhere to the aunt's house. The aunt is inferred. She's in a wheelchair, and she greets them. And they go to the house. It's an old house. It's a large house. And weird things start to happen. Actually, from the get-go of this movie, weird things start to happen. But more on that later. And soon, one of the girls ends up missing. And then another one. And strange things happen. And all of a sudden, the aunt is able to walk. And it's not only that, but she's energetic and dancing. Because strange things are happening, right? Anyways, as one by one the girls are being attacked by things within the home, they kind of wait for their teacher, who is promised to come along, to come to the place and perhaps rescue them. Will these girls figure out the secrets of the home and survive the night? Or will they end up becoming part of the belly of the beast? Well, you'll have to watch. But let's get to those scores, shall we? Violence and Gore, I am giving it a 2 out of 5. There is not a lot of violence in this movie. I mean, there is violent content and there is some gore, but the way that they do it, the effects that they use are not very impactful and are kind of cheesy. And yes, there are a few bloody scenes that do have some nice impact, so I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. But overall, the tone of the movie, along with how they do things, kind of takes away from much of the impact of the violence. The kung fu fighting is kind of cheesy, and maybe a little out of place, but then again, there's a lot of things in this movie that will feel out of place. So, 2 out of 5. Shock value, I am going to give this a 3 out of 5, and that is mostly because of how messed up this movie is. This movie is like a drug-induced fever dream and is really crazy. It is rather nuts. I compare it to being avant-garde, but it is out there. There is a whole lot of frame rate changes and effects and whatnot going on in this movie, and it is kind of jarring, and to a lot of people it might seem just way too weird. Think of what Rob Zombie did with the movie House of a Thousand Corpses, but then turn it up to like 11 with some of the visual effects, and then add a whole bunch of craziness, wackiness, goofballiness. The soundtrack also kind of takes away from the overall horror vibes, but the overall shock of this is that, what the hell are you watching type of shock. And that's kind of what I really like about this movie. So anyways, 3 out of 5. The plot is a 3.5 out of 5. Through all the weirdness, there is actually an interesting story involved in this movie. I don't want to kind of talk about it too much and give away some of it, because really the story is kind of its anchor that allows you to still be invested in the movie. The weird stuff is the stuff that makes you want to go deeper and see where the rabbit hole goes and how crazy the movie will get. But the story is what grounds you to reality, because it is an interesting story about why things are happening with the house and things like that. The kind of background of the aunt and, of course, Gorgeous and her mom. And it is very interesting. And I think it does a great job of holding the crazy, messed up movie together. And honestly, I don't want to say too much about it, because I think if you're going to watch this movie, you'll want to kind of learn as you go with the characters, because I think it's more satisfying that way. And it also helps keep it grounded and not be completely, totally hallucinogenic fantasy zone. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, 3.5 out of 5. I mean, I'm going to get it a lot more, but we are talking about crazy fantasy, drug-induced, psycho. It's hard to describe, really. It's like the Matrix. You gotta experience it for yourself to understand. But it is crazy. I mean, you've got people getting turned into bananas and inexplicable deaths and floating heads and body parts and dancing skeletons and kung fu mummies. Yeah, it's definitely a trip. Anyways, so moving on to acting. Well, I have no idea. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. I'm sure it's super overacted. And I do know that in some of the parts, some of the wackiness, some of the craziness is just really like, but it fits. It fits. The kind of acting, the overacting, the melodrama fits kind of with the tone of the movie, because it is pretty over the top and crazy and insane, and wouldn't expect more, I don't know, nuanced, calm, collected serious acting going on in such a strange film. So I think it fits. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Anyways, moving on to Nudity. I am going to give this a 2.5 out of 5. There are a couple brief scenes, but then there is also one of one of the girls swimming in a sea of blood, naked, and it's actually kind of beautiful, like, you know, artistic, the way she's moving about in the water, because you would think she would be thrashing around because she's in blood, but it's almost like when you watch like those underwater dancers, it's really different. You're like, you know, I think you're trying to thrash around to save yourself and pull yourself out of the blood bath, but yeah, it's I don't know, it fits, but yeah, it's kind of a elongated scene and meanders, or not meanders, but it's on screen for a while, so 2.5 out of 5. For what it's worth. Anyways, enjoyment factor, I'm giving this a 4 out of 5 because it is right up my alley. Crazy, insane, messed up things happening for weird reasons, and yet still an interesting storyline tying it all together. So, you know, it's great. It's not for everyone. I watched this with my sister-in-law and one of my friends, and my sister-in-law was like, just, what is this that I'm watching? I don't even know. And he's just like, oh my god. So yeah, it's not for everyone, but if you are like me, you will find a lot of enjoyment in this movie, even though it might not be a fright fest, it might not be a scare fest, but definitely horror elements. I mean, people are getting eaten, and their body parts are getting all over the place, so, you know, anyways, I like it. 4 out of 5. My overall impression, though, is a 3.5 out of 5. It might be a bit too much for the average audience. You might consider it too pretentious and artsy at times, and really, the first half of the movie, you're just basically like, what the shit is this crap? I don't even know. How is this a horror movie? What? It's like a weird comedy thing going on. But trust me, once you get to the second half, everything just becomes just a wonderful mishmash, rainbow-tacular, mess of a movie that somehow works for me. Anyways, 3.5 out of 5. That averages out to 3.1 out of 5. House, solid movie. I love it. But hey, what do you think? Have you seen House? Tell me in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you think it's great? It's wonderful, crazy awesomeness? Or do you disagree with me and think it's just garbage? It's incomprehensible, unscary blah, I don't know. But, you know, that's the beauty of horror, is that there's such a wide tent, and there's room in it for all kinds of things. Ultra serious, lighthearted stuff, even funny things, and of course, batshit crazy Asian horror movies, which, let's face it, why a lot of you came to this channel to begin with. So, anyways, so there you have it, House. Don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe if you want to, hit the bell for the notifications, yada yada, all the stuff that you're not going to do because who's even here at this moment sitting through this video. But anyways, I am Zankoku, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the 31 Nights of Halloween Horror, and I will see you next time with another horror review. But until then, you stay sexy and you stay scary, Internet, and I will see you then. Oh yes, and by the way, if you send a letter to an estranged relative and it gets delivered back to you with a white cat that's just creepily there, I think it's time to like return to sender. Honestly, I think return to sender. Say, you know what? Keep the cat. It was nice talking to you, Aunt, but I'm good. All right. Ah!